Well, it's time to pick a few of these Breba Peter's honey. They're in absolute perfect readiness, let's say. They're ready. And I love my Peter's honey. It is one of the most delicious figs I've ever eaten, period. I've got 4 of these trees in the ground. Of course, in this location, in Zone 7A in New Jersey, I cover my figs. I winter protect my figs. They're that valuable to me. I would never leave them to fend for themselves in the New Jersey winters. And there's different methods, and I intend to make a couple videos about winter protection. Something that we have been doing in our family for over 50 years that I know of, since I was a little boy, and it works. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If there was another way besides container growing or using my grow bag method of planting it in the ground in the summer and popping it out in the fall, if there was another better way, I'd be using it. I'm not going to let my valuable figs die back, because when they die back, let's open this up. If you let them die back in the wintertime, you're starting over every year, and you're going to have tender wood, and it's just going to die again because it never has a chance to establish itself. I use lights. It's so easy to do, but you don't have to do it. If you let them get established a year or two, you can just wrap them quickly, tie them real tight, vertically, and wrap some burlap around them and stick a tarp over them. Make sure they get a little ventilation, because they need ventilation or you're going to end up with mold. And that's for the most part a very hardy tree like Peter's honey. That's all you need to do. Hardy Chicago, a great backyard cultivar, Celeste, Ron de Bordeaux, Negron, Violet de Bordeaux. If you like it, I think I would not recommend Violet de Bordeaux for in-ground growing, because it's just a little too late. That's my opinion. You'll get figs, and sometimes they'll all get ripe during an Indian summer, but a lot of times you're going to get those fall rains and cold nights, and it's a pain. I think it's better container grown, or let me have a taste of this. I just wish everybody could experience what I'm experiencing right now. These figs are delicious. I mean, really, really, really delicious. Peter's honey wouldn't be my first choice when you take in all the factors that need to be taken into consideration when growing figs in your backyard, in this zone. But since I don't have to just choose one, and I have 4 or 5 favorite figs, 6, 7, and there's lots of great varieties out there, and you can find most of them locally or in some of the big nurseries or on FigBid. There's quite a few. You can get anything you want on FigBid. And the people that are running FIGBID, I can't speak more highly of their integrity. And the sellers, they're all graded pretty much by the buyers. And you can tell if they're reputable or not, and just about everyone is. You've got to look out there in the rest of the world. You've got to look out. There's a few scammers, and you got to be wary of that. But most of the people, certainly all my friends and the people I've dealt with, are just of the highest reputation, and I trust them. You can get these varieties that I mentioned right on FIGBID, or you can look them up. Some of the local nurseries or some of the big nurseries that are on the internet. It wouldn't be my first choice if you're only going to have one tree in the backyard, because there's others that are a little earlier. If you don't have a sweet spot up against the house like I do, up against the brick, and I've got several of these trees, and I grow a couple in my Virginia location too, and they produce tremendously. But for flavor, I don't think I've ever tasted a fig that really tastes better than a real ripe Peter's honey. And it makes a lot of Breba. Look at this, just on a little tree. And the Breba are even as delicious as the main crop, I think more so. And that's very rare with a Breba. First crop figs are generally not as delicious as the main crop figs. But these are, and I'm going to eat the rest of this one. All right. Wow. This is a time of the year that I look forward to with relish and anticipation. All winter long, I'm thinking about my next crop of delicious figs, whatever the variety might be. And again, there's so many wonderful varieties and suitable varieties too for this climate. But you need to consider some form of winter protection. Look, you pay money for your figs, they're expensive. You take care of them, you feed them, you give them fertilizer, you prune them, you water them, you care for them. You've got time and money wrapped up. They're valuable. Why just let them fend for themselves? I mean, I wouldn't let my figs stay outside in the cold with no protection. My God, I wouldn't put my little doggie sleeps in bed with me. my little poodle, she stays in the house with me. I wouldn't let my dog sleep outside, and I wouldn't let my fig sleep outside with no protection. I mean, seriously, think about it for a moment. Isn't it worth a little bit of effort? How long does it take? You have to face the facts. I've been doing this over 50 years. My family, me. If you want figs, not little twigs coming out after they die back in the spring, and you're forced to cut it all the way to the ground because it's dead wood or wood that won't produce, that's not a good thing. You want to preserve last year's wood. And if you want a happy medium, then trim the tree, prune it severely, cut it all the way in half. Just cut it in half. Then it's easier to cover it. It's a no-brainer. I keep my figs small mostly, and when they start getting a little too big, I chop them in half. And this way I have last year's wood that's preserved, and it's going to shoot out in the spring, and you're going to get figs, early figs, not figs in September when the nights are cold and the rains have come. Figs don't like that kind of weather condition. They want to get ripe like now. And right now, it's July 11th. They want to get ripe in July or August. That's when they're the best. And if you let it die to the ground, okay, it's just going to send up little scraggly shoots, and they're not going to produce a couple varieties. You might find a couple varieties. I've grown so many varieties over. I've had so many failures. Believe me, let me eat the rest of this fig. But I've experimented with easily 100 varieties in the past, going back decades. And most of them have failed. And I admit my failures. I was experimenting. I was looking for a rare fig that maybe could do it, you know, that could really perform well in this cold environment, in this nasty environment that I live in. I don't have the good fortune of living in California or some other better place. And they died. And they died to the ground. And you might get a year where you get an unusually warm year and your figs don't die and you're lucky. And that's wonderful. Isn't it wonderful? But believe me, then your tree will be a little bigger and you'll be proud of it and you'll be producing, and then the next winter will come along and just kill it right to the ground. That's not good. And all I'm saying is preserve, try to do everything you can to preserve some of last year's wood. And there are so many methods, and I can talk about these methods in the future that work. Methods that work. And I'm just trying to give good advice to novice people that don't know these things, or people that have only been growing figs for a few years and they maybe haven't experienced what I've experienced. And they mean well, but they get bad results. And so when you get bad results, as I have gotten in the past, we all do, you modify your methods and you face the facts. So rather than continue to ramble, I hope I've disseminated a little useful information to you fig lovers out there. Don't be afraid to plant a tree in your backyard if it's a certain suitable variety, and don't be reluctant to cover it. So what? It's valuable. It's something worth protecting. Have a good day.